Good morning, my dear friends. A brand new day has just begun, and I hope yours is filled with joy, peace, and good energy. Before we dive into the day, let's take a moment together to check out the newest developments in the ongoing story of Tuna and Kiet. Their journey has been full of unexpected twists, heartfelt emotions, and tough decisions, and today promises to be no different. What surprises are waiting just around the corner? What choices will they make? And how will everything unfold between them? Well, there's only one way to find out. So grab your coffee, sit back, and stay right here with me, because the next chapter is about to begin. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single moment of what's coming. Whether you're rooting for love, redemption, or a little bit of drama, this episode has something for everyone. All right, I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's get right into it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying this story as much as I am. Let's jump into the latest update in the story of Tuna and Kiet. This morning, Tuna sat quietly on the front porch, gently holding her baby daughter in her arms. The sun filtered through the trees, but her heart felt heavy. A whirlwind of thoughts ran through her mind, most of them centered around one person, Kiet. She couldn't help but wonder, does he still care? Does he still think about them, about her and their little girl? It had already been 3 days since she last saw him. 3 long days without his usual visits after work. Before, not a single evening passed without Kiet stopping by after his shift at the wood workshop. He would bring her a small snack, sit and talk with her, sometimes quietly, just listening to the baby's coos. It had become part of her routine, part of what she looked forward to. But now, that comforting presence had vanished, and she feared she might be the reason. Her mind kept going back to that conversation, the one where she told him she hadn't made a decision yet about returning to her old home. She didn't mean to hurt him, but maybe he misunderstood. Maybe he thought she still wanted to go back to her ex-husband. The regret was overwhelming. If only she had said things differently. If only she had told him what was really in her heart. Now, all she could do was wait and worry. Did Kiet walk away for good? Or was he just giving her space? As Tuna sat there in silence, her baby nestled in her arms, one thing became painfully clear: she missed him. More than she ever thought possible. After gently rocking her baby daughter to sleep, Tuna quietly slipped out of the bedroom and walked into the kitchen. Her heart still heavy with worry, she made a decision today. She would do something for Kiet. She wasn't sure if he would welcome it. She wasn't even sure if he'd want to see her. But deep down, she needed to try. With quiet determination, she started preparing a warm, home-cooked meal. Nothing extravagant, just simple comfort food made with love. She carefully washed the rice, chopped the vegetables, and seasoned everything the way she remembered he liked. As she moved around the kitchen, the soft clinking of utensils was the only sound in the room. Every small action, every stir of the pot, every pinch of spice held a piece of her heart. She was nervous, afraid even. What if he really had decided to walk away? What if her words from before had pushed him too far, made him think she wanted to go back to her old life, to her ex? That wasn't true. She just didn't know how to say it then. But food was her way of expressing what she couldn't find the words for. She packed everything neatly into a small lunchbox and wrapped it with care. She was going to bring it to the wood shop, to the place he spent most of his days. Maybe he'd be surprised. Maybe he wouldn't say much. but at least he'd know. Know that she was still here, that she still cared. And even if it was just a simple meal, it carried all the sincerity, hope, and quiet affection that had been growing in her heart since the day Kiet first stepped into her life. After carefully packing the homemade meal into a small, lovely lunchbox, Tuna gently picked up her daughter and made her way toward the woodshop. The sun was high overhead. By the time she arrived, it was just about noon, and most of the workers were already on their lunch break. The place was quieter than usual. She looked around, scanning the open workspace, the shaded corners, hoping to spot Kiet. But he was nowhere in sight. What she didn't know was that Kiet was there. He was just a few steps away, standing behind one of the large delivery trucks, measuring the new batch of wood that had just come in. And the moment he caught a glimpse of her, that familiar figure walking through the gate, something inside him froze. Kiet's heart tightened. He quickly stepped back, hiding himself behind the stacks of timber. He couldn't face her. Not now. In his mind, he kept repeating the thought that had been haunting him for days. Her husband's come back. I shouldn't be near her anymore. I need to give her space, to let her go. That's what's best for everyone. For her, for the baby, and for me. He didn't want her to see him. He wasn't ready to hear what she might say, or what she wouldn't say. Meanwhile, Tuna walked slowly around the shop floor. She called out softly, hoping he might appear. But still, nothing. Maybe he had stepped out. Maybe he was out delivering something, she thought. She sat down on the wooden bench near one of the work tables, gently rocking her daughter in her arms. She waited and waited, but still, no sign of him. Eventually, she sighed and stood up. She was disappointed, but she understood. The fields still needed harvesting that afternoon, and she couldn't afford to stay much longer. So she carefully placed the lunchbox on the table, right where he usually sat during breaks. Then, with a soft glance around, she turned and quietly walked away, her child resting peacefully on her shoulder. From his hiding place, Kiet saw her leave. He stood frozen for a moment, torn between stepping out and staying put. He watched the small figure of Tu Nha gradually fade from view as she headed back down the road. Once she was gone, he finally emerged from behind the truck. Slowly, he walked toward the bench where she'd been waiting just moments earlier. And there it was, the lunchbox, neatly placed, tied with a familiar cloth. Simple, but thoughtful. He could almost smell the warmth of the rice inside, the care behind every ingredient. He stood there, staring at it, his heart a mess of emotions. She had come, even after everything. Even when she thought he wasn't there, she had still come. And she had brought him lunch. It wasn't just food. It was a message. A quiet one, without any words, but louder than anything she could have said. Kiet sat down slowly on the bench. He reached out and rested his hand gently on the top of the box, as if afraid to open it, afraid of what it might mean. Maybe he had been wrong. Maybe she didn't want to go back to her past. Maybe she still cared. The air around him was quiet, but his thoughts were loud. Regret, longing, and a faint, flickering hope all mixed together. And in that silent moment, Kiet realized he missed her too. Kiet sat down on the wooden bench, still staring at the lunchbox Tuna had left behind. The soft afternoon light spilled across the table, but his heart felt like it was trapped in shadows. He slowly reached out and opened the box. Inside was a simple, homemade meal, nothing fancy, but everything about it screamed care, thoughtfulness, love. He picked up the first bite and brought it to his mouth. But as he chewed, he could feel the tears already welling up in his eyes. He couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he ate. The food was warm, but it wasn't just the taste that hit him. It was everything behind it. All the emotions he had been trying to suppress came rushing to the surface. She still cared. Even now, even after everything that had been said and unsaid, she had made the effort to cook for him, to bring it all the way here, to wait, and then quietly walk away when she didn't find him. But now he was left wondering, what did it all mean? Did it mean she still wanted to be with him? Or was it just a kind gesture, a farewell, something from a woman trying to ease the pain of a goodbye she couldn't say out loud? He shook his head and wiped at his face, frustrated at his own confusion. In his mind, a single thought repeated itself like a broken record. Her husband is back. She has a family. What am I doing? He put down his chopsticks and leaned forward, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. The pressure inside him was building the kind that no words could explain. But amidst the swirl of emotions, heartbreak, fear, guilt, something else began to rise. Something clearer, resolve. If Tuna still cared even a little, then she deserved someone who would protect her, not disappear on her. And if her husband really was back, who was he? Was he truly a changed man? Did he deserve her trust again? Could he be a good father to that little girl? Kiet knew he couldn't just stand on the sidelines, trapped in his own doubt and pain. No, he had to know the truth, not just for himself, but for her. He would find out who this man really was. Not to fight for her like some romantic fantasy, but to understand whether Tuna and her daughter were safe, truly safe. Because no matter what happened between him and Tuna, one thing was certain. He couldn't bear the thought of her being hurt. Not again. She had been through enough. If that meant stepping back so she could rebuild her family, then he would do it. But if something wasn't right, if this man wasn't who he claimed to be, then Kiet wouldn't just stand by. He would protect her. He would protect them both. Kiet sat back and looked at the lunchbox again. The rice was half eaten, but he couldn't take another bite. His chest was too full. He closed the lid slowly, as if sealing away not just a meal, but a moment that meant far more than food. It was a moment of clarity, a silent message from her, and now, a silent vow from him. He whispered to himself, voice breaking as he spoke, "I'll figure this out. I'll find out who he is. And no matter what happens, I won't let her suffer again, not while I'm still breathing." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the workshop, Kiet sat there in silence, a man torn, but no longer lost. A man ready to face the storm, if that's what it took to protect the ones he loved. As Kiet sat there beneath the fading light of the afternoon, his eyes fixed on the lunchbox now resting quietly beside him, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know what he might uncover about the man from Tuna's past, or how she truly felt now. But deep down, he knew he had a role to play. Maybe not as her lover, maybe not even as someone by her side, but as someone who wouldn't walk away, someone who would protect her no matter how things turned out. The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of wood shavings and summer heat. Kiet stood slowly, the weight of his decision anchoring him, but also giving him strength. And as he walked back toward the workshop, one quiet thought echoed in his heart. Was this the beginning of the end? Or just the start of something neither of them had dared to imagine. Only time would tell.
Trước cổng xưởng gỗ nơi Kiệt đang làm việc, một người đàn ông lặng lẽ đứng nhìn vào bên trong. Gương mặt anh ta không lộ rõ cảm xúc, nhưng ánh mắt lại toan tính và lạnh lẽo. Đó chính là chồng cũ của Tử Na, người mà cô từng cố gắng rũ bỏ khỏi cuộc đời mình. Sau khi biết được Kiệt là người mà Tử Nha nhắc đến trong những cuộc trò chuyện, người đàn ông bắt đầu nhen nhóm một ý định âm thầm tiếp cận Kiệt, theo dõi từng bước đi của anh và bằng cách nào đó khiến cho Kiệt và Tử Nha không tiếp tục bên nhau. Không để mất thời gian, chúng ta tiến thẳng vào bên trong xưởng. Gặp Kiệt giờ đây đang ở cương vị quản lý mới. Anh ta giả vờ là một người xa lạ, chỉ đơn giản đang tìm kiếm một công việc để mưu sinh. Chào anh, tôi ở đây đang tuyển người. Tôi từng làm ở vài xưởng gỗ, không ngại vất vả miễn là có việc để sống, anh ta nói với giọng thật giả tạo. Kiệt như bao lần khác, vẫn với sự tử tế và bao dung của cách nhìn của người khác, anh không hề nhận ra trước mặt mình là ai. Anh cũng chẳng hề biết quá khứ đằng sau gương mặt đã từng khiến Tử Nha đau khổ như thế nào. Chỉ nhớ mang máng vài câu chuyện về người đàn ông từng mất tất cả.